Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, treasure hunt, emerald hunters. It is I, Retro once again with a very special presentation for you guys today. Today we'll be talking about emulation, emulators, and the importance of game preservation. Very recently, last night, there was a new article that presented us with the importance of why game preservation is important. But before we do anything, let's remind yourselves to do work, live life, and create funny and scary content.
Where was y'all at when I was putting in that work, when I was doing that dirt, when I was calling me first sight? Where was y'all at when I was put through the worst? Felt I was in a hearse, but deep down I knew my worth. Yeah, every day I did work just to get it. Every day I did work just to have it. Every day I do work, man, I came from the bottom to the top, I made it work. Every day I did work just to get it. Every day I did work just to have it. Every day I do work, man, I came from the bottom to the top, I made it work. Okay. Attention up in this thing. I'm a lieutenant up in this thing. Independent people making their money to get rich. Work affiliated up in this bitch. And you know we all stuff, we all lit. Well, if I ain't got no worries, say you ain't gotta worry about. Gotta worry about shit. I know some people didn't want me to make it. When they got a monster, didn't ask for the favors. Mom was the only one who told me she believed me them mistakes in the grass like. I know some people didn't want me to make it. When they got a monster, didn't ask.
Alright everybody, welcome back to Retro Gaming, where we do presentations, do work, live life, and create funny and scary content. Yep, live already. Yes sir. So, here's what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about what are emulators and some history of emulation, why emulate on the PC, and we're going to do a brief comparison, what's up Bryce, of console versus emulation, and an example of why emulation matters, especially with a new video that just came out last night from YongYea. Also, we'll be doing a little Romhacks and emulators, common vocabulary on emulation, emulation FAQ, and I'm going to give you guys a look at how to get started with your emulation journey. So, yep, this will be a lot of fun. So what is an emulator? An emulator is a piece of software on a PC or Macintosh, or an Android phone that allows the user to play classic video games from the Nintendo 64, GameCube, and so on said device. Pictured to your right is Project 64, which is responsible for Nintendo 64 games, and Dolphin Emulator, which is responsible for GameCube and Nintendo Wii games. You may have noticed I play on emulators on the Pokemon Emerald for tonight, and I do use some emulator for that. Moving on to, yeah, English go burr. Emulation history started back in 1993 with an NES emulator. I forgot to put in the name though. But 1994, there's an SNES emulator called SNES 9X that was released, and I actually used that for several games. 1994 to 1998, there were a few Sega Genesis emulators that were released. Thank you, buddy. I'll see you later at 5:15. I'm Bryce. Thanks, buddy. And newer system emulators for the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4 just started in the last few years. Yeah. And also, believe it or not, there is a PS4 and Nintendo Switch emulator that is just in development. And I might be diving into that very soon here. So why emulate on the PC? Allows you to play classic games from your childhood. Pokemon Emerald, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, whatever. Allows you to stream games from the past. So I stream Pokemon Emerald every night almost, except for Mondays. Maybe. Save states, I'll talk about those on a different slide. Also allows for retries. So if you want to save your game and you want to try a portion, that allows you to do a save state. And advantage for those of you who develop ROM hacks and modifications. I'll talk about that later. And game preservation, that is going to be the big topic now. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. So let's talk about console versus emulator and the differences. On consoles, You play the game as it meant to be from the developer. You save games at certain spots as indicated by said game, like save points. You can buy and sell said copy without problems. And however, here's the big point. No game preservation. Digital games would be lost if digital stores close. And I'll be talking about this particular portion in a moment. Emulators allows modders and to add mechanics, features, and other things not found in the original game, like save states. Save the game at any time via save states, or in some cases file save states. I'll talk about those when I start talking about individual emulators, because there are some things that we need to talk about for that, and I'll talk about those on those videos. Maybe presentation 2, we'll see. You can distribute any kind of ROMs provided that you don't sell them for profit. I'll talk about that in a moment. And emulators allow for game preservation, which preserves the classic games of the past so that we can play them. Without emulators, there is no way we can play Pokemon, other than the official release. There's no way we can go back to the past with Chrono Trigger without emulators. So that's why a lot of people nowadays want to use emulators to play classic games like Chrono Trigger, Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Silver, all those classic games of the past. And this is just very recent. And I'll talk about this right now. So recently, Nintendo 3DS store slash the Wii U digital stores are going to be closing in 2023, in March of 2023. And we'll be talking about this article from Kotaku, and I'll also talk about a video from YongYea in just a moment. But the article, or the articles, goes into that they are going to shut down the store, the market store thing on the 3DS and the Wii U. It will be closing down on the 2023 in March. Thousands of digital-only games will be lost if not preserved. This proves that games should be brought into modern systems like the Nintendo Switch and should be put on emulators like Dolphin. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the articles and the video from YongYea. So let's go into that right now. There's more to the presentation, but I want to go into the actual video here. Not that. Let me go ahead and upload that. Put that in on the board so you guys can see it. Go ahead into the Kotaku article first, because I want to talk about that. Let me see if it's gonna let me put that window up. Here we go. So, as you guys can see on the board, Nintendo closing 3DS and Wii U shops in 2023 and has no plans to offer content in other ways, like classic content. We're talking about like emulation or stuff like that. And keep in mind that they have a there's no virtual console, there's no emulation, nothing. There's no plans, in quotation marks. So that's a thing you have to understand here. They're closing it down completely. So if there was a digital game that you liked, you better get it now before they close it. You're never gonna get those again. Okay, so that make sure you guys check that out. So as of August 29, 2022, this year, it will be no longer possible to use the Nintendo eShop card, add funds for the account. However, if you do the codes, if you have a redeemed download code, you can still do those. But you can no longer add funds after after August 29, 2022. In May of this year, it will be no longer possible to add a credit card for funds in the Nintendo shop. That is why it's important for game preservation. What's up, Sonic? What's up, buddy? So any games that you have that you want to get for the Nintendo eShop, you better get them now before next year, 2023. They're going to close it. Okay, now there's a grace. If you bought the game already, or if you still want to download the game after March 2023, you are still able to do so. I'm gonna warn you that it is possible that they're gonna close that part too. Now I do want to play a small portion of YongYea. I highly recommend Mr. YongYea here. He's handsome and stuff, but Nintendo to shut down 3DS and resource up to 1,000 digital games lost proves of value of emulation. I'm gonna play a little bit, okay, just to show you guys what it means. I'm gonna play just a little bit of it.
Suck at it more than frickin' Nintendo. Look, I love their games. They've brought me great joy, but some of their business strategies are questionable at best.
Absolutely
they've
fact.
taken down all of these emulation and ROM websites, and yet they can't bother to bring their huge library of classic games into the modern era via virtual console and whatnot. The rollout of those games.
Absolutely right. He's right. That Nintendo is not bringing their classic games to the modern era like the Switch or to emulation. They're not doing that. I mean, they are, but they're doing it in a very slow. And if March 2023 comes and they're not there yet, it's gone. So YongYea is right on this. He also talks about the emulators, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. I wanted to give you guys that snippet. If you guys want to watch the full thing, the link is already in the description, along with the articles we're talking about today. Another article is from the Nintendo support customer support page. So again, May 23, it's no longer to use credit card, and August 29 of this year, you can no longer add funds with the shop card, but you can still use download codes. Okay, so be very careful with that. I believe there is one other thing that I want to talk about on one of the articles from Mr. YongYea, and that is about the online service. Let's see if I can find it here. See over here. Okay, this one I want to talk about in a moment. That's another thing I want to talk about in a moment. There is one thing about the emulation that we need to talk about, and that is the online service. What if I told you? What if the online service is going to cease to exist? You cannot play multiplayer. That's going to be a possibility down the line. Like we already lost service to I think PS3, if I remember correctly, PlayStation 3, if I'm not mistaken. But it's important to understand that online play is possibly going to cease to exist after March 2023 in the future. Okay? So after March 2023, it's still possible to play online, but down the line, they're going to cut that off for Nintendo 3DS and Wii U. So do be on the lookout for that possibility. Next thing we need to talk about is we're going to go back to the presentation in a moment. But I do want to, yeah. What's up, Dion? If you guys have any questions, let me know, because I'm going to try my best to answer as many questions as you guys have about emulation and why it's important for the game preservation. But this is already in there. What if you like a digital game, only game, and it's part of this deal where they close up shop? You're never going to get that game again unless that game is on an emulator or a ROM. Okay, I'll talk about ROMs and emulators in just a moment again, because we're going to talk about how to do these live, like how to play. Okay, let's head back to the presentation a moment and talk about ROM hacks and emulation. So, what else do I have for you? So, you actually have an advantage if you play on emulators because you get to play something called ROM hacks. Now, ROM hacks are games made using a software that is based on assets from original games. Most of the time, Super Mario World is referenced, Super Mario 64, and other Mario games have ROM hacks made for them. You may have seen them played on this channel, on my main channel, like Super Mario Universe by Hendog30 and Super Mario World Super Mario Brothers. So check those out if you have not. And I'm gonna play these eventually on the Shadow channel. ROM hacks and emulation. How ROM hacks works with emulators. The ROM hacks can be played on emulators provided that you also have a ROM hack patcher like Flips for SNES 9X. I'll have a tutorial for you on how to do these down this series. Note that different software is required for a selected emulator. So ROM hacks and emulation, the pros and cons of ROM hacks on emulations. ROM hack pros allows you to play created user content. Some ROM hacks developers even program these things to add new mechanics not found in the original game. So in Super Mario World, there's actually no mechanic for a wall jump, but in a ROM hack, you can actually do that. It allows players to experience Mario or some other game worlds through the eyes of the developers of the ROM hack. Okay? Here's the only con I see of a ROM hack and ROM hack on emulators. You cannot sell those, and that's actually a good point here. You cannot sell ROM hacks of any kind to the copyright and IP problems, and because of that, let me go back to the internet and let's talk about a case that happened recently. So, by the way, that is his real name, Gary Bowser, no cap. Pleads guilty and offers to pay $4.5 million to Nintendo because of selling mod chips and modified rim like this. So it's $4.5 million. Not only he sold ROM hacks, ROMs I should say, but this is not good. This is the only time where Nintendo was correct in like going after ROM hack sites. When you're doing it for profit, then it becomes illegal. But if you're doing it for free, that's fine. You're fine. You're okay. You're okay. But if you make profit from it, then they go after you. That's why you don't see ROM Paradise. You don't see this and that anymore. So that's why you have to be very careful. You can distribute ROMs as long as you don't make profit from them. You're fine with that. Okay. Now, so the synopsis of this case is Gary Bowser made a ROM hack site and ROM site like stuff like that and sold those for profit. Basically, Nintendo got him. That's a synopsis of that. I'm not gonna dive too deep into this because that's the overall picture of that case. Now, go back to the presentation at hand. So I want to go over some common emulator vocabulary. Common word used in the emulator community. They include save state, which allows players to save their progress at any time using keyboard shortcuts, useful for Let's Plays. Okay, I've seen this happen. I do these too. ROM is short for read-only memory, in which software cannot be modified, deleted, or added to. Emulator is a piece of software that allows you to emulate something. Dolphin Emulator, for example, emulates a Nintendo GameCube and a Nintendo Wii. Yes, that is correct. The Dolphin emulator is the one, I think, the only exception to where a ROM emulator can only do one system. I think Dolphin is the only one that can do this. Romhacks, on the other hand, are software or games created by via third-party applications like Lunar Magic, and that allows creators to make games from games. Lunar Magic allows users to make games from assets of Super Mario World. That's why you got to see Super Mario Universe. You get to see Super Mario Brothers Super Mario World. And you get to see Kaizo Mario games. And all that cool stuff. So I want to do some FAQ before we get into the live tutorial on how to start getting your emulation journey on the board. So are emulators free to use? Most emulators are free to use for your gaming needs. Okay, yes they are. Are emulators legal? Emulators are legal provided that you don't buy or sell them or make profit. What are the most popular ones? Project 64, Dolphin. Those are the two that I see most common in the emulation community. Can you distribute ROMs? Yes, the answer is yes, provided that you don't make profit from them. ROM hacks versus ROMs. ROMs read only memory. You cannot add, subtract, or modify. ROM hacks, you can add, modify, or subtract, provided that you use a third-party application like Lunar Magic. I'll provide tutorials on Lunar Magic later on. Hint. Here's a little hint for you guys. If you watch my streams of Pokemon Emerald on the Edgy Gamer channel, you'll notice I use something called a mystery wheel as part of the rewards. The mystery wheel where I do for Pokemon Emerald does not affect in-game gameplay in terms of modifications. It's my own twist. Meaning that the wheel I use is not added to Pokemon Emerald in coding. It's my own twist on a game that I play for you guys. So the mystery wheel does not affect in-game gameplay in terms of all of a sudden, here comes the mystery wheel in Pokemon Emerald, you spin it and something else happens. It's my own twist. That's why you see me switching scenes every time. So we have the mystery wheel right there. So I use a different scene for the mystery wheel. That's why you don't see it in game, because it's never coded. This is my own twist on a classic game that allows me to make it more interesting. But let's just say that a wheel was added to Pokemon Emerald in a third-party fashion. That becomes a ROM hack in that case. But in this case, it's not, since it's my own thing for our own streams. Let's get started with getting you on the emulation board. Let me get you started right away here. And the links to these sites and stuff I've been talking about are in the description. So if you guys want to check those out, feel free to do so. I want to get you guys started on how to get started with your emulation journey, so that you guys can play classic games like I do. And I'm going to provide a different separate video for this too. So what you're going to need is a few things. You're going to need a ROM site, and that is vim.net, link in the description below. So in vim.net, you have something called the emulation layer. Click on that and select the system of your choice. For today's example, we're going to take a look at Dolphin, the Dolphin emulator. That is for Nintendo GameCube and Nintendo Wii. Click on your system that you want to download for. So this case is available for 3 devices, the Windows, the Mac, and the Android. And the Android phone. Give me just one moment there. Gotta take that off. Gotta take off that from the board. There we go. Alright. The Dolphin emulator is available for Windows, Macintosh, and Android. I'm not going to delve into Android yet because it's not on my agenda today. But click on the system of your choice. Let's say Windows. When you downloaded the software, install it and you'll be good to go as normal. I already have it, so I'm not going to go through that. I will, however, tell you you need a file extractor. Also in the description below is 7-zip for Windows. Now there is one for Macintosh though, but the one I have for the description is Windows, I believe. So you can select your type, 64-bit, 32-bit, and all that good stuff. Download this, and you'll be good to go. And then I'm gonna show you how to start like getting stuff. When you're done with your extraction of the 7-zip and your Dolphin emulator, you're going to need to find a game and a ROM, I should say. You go back to vim.net and go to the vault. And because we're talking about GameCube games for our today's example, we're going to take a look at GameCube. And then select a game of your choice. For today's example, we're going to be taking a look at Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, a game that I'm going to play for you guys eventually. And then click download wherever it is here. There we go. Download here for the game. So we're going to download this. I already have it downloaded though, so we're not going to do that again. And if you guys want to see the reviews, go for it. Have fun with that. Now, once your game, your ROM, your Dolphin, and your 7-zip have been downloaded, let's take a look at 7-zip. Let's actually download a game here. For that, I'm going to actually open up a window display capture, excuse me. So you're about to see a double for a moment. Here we go. So here's how it's gonna look. Once you have everything that you need, I'm gonna close, minimize this. Once you have everything that you need, head over to your folder. I want you guys to make a folder where you're gonna put your games. I have Retro Yuki Gaming and I put it under Dolphin Games. Okay, make sure you save it somewhere you can have it. So all this are exactly from what I just downloaded. Okay, when you download a game, you should get a 7-zip icon here. Let me see if I still have those. The 7-zip. Extract them here where your games are. Okay, and you'll be good to go. Once you extract them, we're gonna go open Dolphin. And you should see something like this. Now all these games are in my library. I'm gonna go over like in a separate video of how to like extract them and put them in together like this. But that's how you do it. That is how you start your emulation journey. And I'm going to actually do tutorials on different emulators by its own series so that you guys can get started. But that's the presentation, guys. So that's it. That's a presentation. So the moral of the story is, make sure you guys understand the importance of game preservation. Because one day, you're never going to see those games again. Unless they're preserved via emulation. That is all for today's presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed. Next time, we'll be talking about more about game preservation. But we're going to take a deep dive. We're going to go into like Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft and how they're handling game preservation as we head into the next generation of consoles. I will tell you, one of these companies is not doing it right, and I think I just mentioned them. So that's all, we'll see you guys at 5:15 if you guys are interested. VR chat open lobby with Shadow. At 5:15, that is going to be our content of the day on this channel. And later tonight on Edgy Gamer, we're going to be continuing Pokemon Emerald. We'll see you guys then, and enjoy the rest of your day until 5:15. We continue our VR chat.